Commander Zixthor stood at the front of the massive lecture hall. His forearms rested at his sides and his thick carapace caught the light from above. Scars crossed his body in strange patterns. Each mark told a story of battle, of pain, of survival. The lecture hall was full of young cadets. They came from dozens of different species across the galaxy. Some had fur, some had scales, others had skin like smooth stone. They all wore the uniform of the Galactic Military Academy. They all looked at Zixthor with respect and curiosity. It had been 47 years since the war ended. 47 years since the Human Covenant War had shaken the entire galaxy. Most of these cadets were not even born yet when the fighting stopped. They only knew the stories, the legends, the statistics in their textbooks. Zixthor clicked his mandibles together slowly. It was a nervous habit he had developed during the war. He looked across the rows of young faces and felt old, so very old. "Good morning," he said. His voice was rough like stones grinding together. The translator device on his chest turned his words into a language each cadet could understand. "I am Commander Zixthor of the Keltharian Defense Forces, retired. I served for 32 years. I fought in 17 major battles and hundreds of smaller engagements." A few cadets shifted in their seats. This was standard introduction material. They had heard similar words from other veterans before. "But today," Zixthor continued, "I am not here to tell you about glory. I am not here to tell you about honor or courage in the way you expect. Today I will tell you something that will make you uncomfortable, something that might frighten you." Now he had their attention. The rustling stopped. Every eye in the room focused on him. Zixthor touched a control panel on his wrist. A holographic display appeared in the air behind him. Words formed in glowing letters. "We shall go on to the end." "These are human words," Zixthor said, spoken by one of their ancient leaders during a time of great war on their home planet. "Do you know what they mean?" A cadet in the third row raised a tentacle. "It means they will continue fighting, Commander." "Yes," Zixthor said, "but it is more than that. It is a promise, a threat, a warning." He paused and looked at each section of the audience. "It means that no matter what happens, no matter how much they suffer, no matter how many of them die, they will never stop. Never surrender. Never give up." The words hung in the air like a weight. "Most species in this galaxy understand the concept of acceptable losses," Zixthor continued. "We calculate the cost of battle. When the price becomes too high, we retreat. We surrender. We negotiate. This is logical. This is how civilized beings operate." He turned back to face the cadets fully. "Humans do not think this way. I learned this truth during the war. I learned it in blood and fire and screaming. I learned it by watching things that should not be possible." A young cadet near the front spoke up without raising her hand. "Commander, with respect, humans are just another species. They have advanced technology, yes, but so do many others. What makes them so different?" Zixthor's mandibles clicked rapidly. It might have been a laugh, but there was no humor in it. "That is exactly what we thought. Exactly what the Covenant Command believed when we first encountered them. We saw a species that was relatively new to space travel. Their ships were functional but not exceptional. Their weapons were adequate but not superior. We calculated that we would defeat them within 2 standard years. The war lasted 14 years, he said quietly, and we did not win. We begged for peace." Silence filled the massive room. "You want to know what makes humans different?" Zixthor asked. "I will tell you, but not with statistics or tactical analysis. I will tell you with stories. True stories. Things I saw with my own eyes and felt with my own body." He touched the control panel again. The holographic display changed. It now showed an image of a small outpost on a barren planet. Rocky terrain surrounded a cluster of buildings. Mining equipment stood silent in the photograph. "This is Outpost 7, Zixthor said. A mining facility on the edge of Covenant space. It was a joint operation. Humans worked there alongside Keltharians, Vex, and Glorans. 17 humans in total. 43 members of other species, including myself." The image changed to show the outpost from above. Burn marks scarred the ground. Several buildings had collapsed. "I was a junior officer then," Zixthor continued, young and confident. "I believed I understood warfare. I believed I knew what courage looked like." He paused. Then the Zothan swarm attacked. Some cadets gasped. Everyone knew about the Zothan. They were terrifying enemies, insect-like creatures that attacked in overwhelming numbers. They showed no mercy and took no prisoners. We detected them 6 hours before they arrived, Zixthor said. Standard protocol in such situations is clear. Evacuate immediately. The outpost cannot be defended against a swarm attack. Every military manual says the same thing. Retreat and live to fight another day. The hologram shifted again, showing evacuation ships lifting off from the outpost. Most of us followed protocol, Zixthor said. We ran to the ships. We prepared to flee. This was logical. This was correct. His voice dropped lower. The humans did not come with us. A cadet in the middle rows spoke up. They stayed behind? Why? That, Zixthor said, is the question that changed my understanding of humans forever. I will tell you what happened at Outpost 7. I will tell you about the 11 days that followed, and when I am finished, you will begin to understand why we made peace with humanity, why we will never fight them again if we can possibly avoid it. He looked at the display, seeing not just the image but the memories behind it. The screaming, the blood, the impossible determination. Before I begin the story properly, Zixthor said, I need you to understand something important. In Keltharian culture, we have a saying, the wise warrior knows when the battle is lost. It means that survival requires knowing when to quit, when to accept defeat and preserve your life for another day. He turned back to the cadets. Humans have a different saying. They say, I did not hear no bell. It means the fight continues until someone with authority declares it finished. But here is the terrifying part. Humans often do not recognize any authority except their own will. Zixthor touched his scarred carapace, running one hand along a particularly deep groove. I got this scar at Outpost 7. A human saved my life that day. She was injured, bleeding, and by all logical assessment should have been dead. But she picked up a weapon and stood between me and the swarm. When I asked her why she stayed, why she fought when retreat was the only logical choice, she looked at me with those strange forward-facing predator eyes that humans have. She smiled, blood on her teeth, and said something I will never forget. The lecture hall was completely silent now. Even the usual sounds of cadets shifting in their seats had stopped. She said, because this is our outpost, and we don't give up what's ours. Zixthor let those words settle over the audience. Now, he said, let me tell you exactly what happened during those 11 days. Let me tell you about the first time I truly understood what humans are capable of. Let me tell you about Outpost 7, and why I still have nightmares about the things I saw there. He dimmed the lights in the lecture hall slightly. The holographic display grew brighter, more detailed. The image showed the outpost as it had looked before the attack. Peaceful, functional, ordinary. It started on a morning that seemed like any other morning. At Outpost 7, the alarm had started at dawn. Zixthor remembered the sound perfectly, even after all these years. It was a sharp, piercing wail that cut through the thin atmosphere of the mining planet. Everyone in the outpost knew what it meant. The Zothan swarm was coming. Zixthor had been in the command center when the sensors picked up the first signals. Thousands of contacts moving fast across the desert toward their position. The Zothan traveled in massive groups, overwhelming their targets through sheer numbers. They were each about the size of a large dog, with razor-sharp claws and mandibles that could tear through metal. 6 hours until contact, the sensor operator had announced. Her voice was calm, professional. She was a Gloron with blue skin and large eyes. Swarm strength estimated at 15,000 individuals. 15,000. The outpost had 60 people total. The math was simple and brutal. Begin evacuation procedures, Zixthor had ordered immediately. He was the ranking military officer present. The decision was easy. Standard protocol existed for exactly this situation. Everyone to the transport ships. We leave in 4 hours. The next 3 hours had been organized chaos. People grabbed essential belongings and important data files. The transport ships powered up their engines. Fuel lines connected and disconnected. Cargo was loaded with efficient speed. Zixthor had done a head count as people boarded. Keltharians, Vex, Glorans, all present. But something was wrong with the numbers. Where are the humans? He had asked. The loading officer checked his data pad. They have not reported to the ship's commander. Zixthor felt a spike of irritation. This was no time for delays. He activated his communication device. Human section, this is Commander Zixthor. Report to the transport ships immediately. We leave in 40 minutes, a voice answered. It was Marcus Chen, the human crew leader. Negative, Commander. We are not evacuating. Zixthor thought he had misheard. Repeat that? We are staying, Commander, Marcus said calmly. We are going to defend the outpost. That is insane, Zixthor had said. He meant it literally. The idea of 17 people defending against 15,000 Zathan was beyond foolish. It was suicidal. There is no possibility of success. You will all die. Maybe, Marcus replied, but maybe not. We have mining explosives. We have tools. We have defensible positions. And we have each other. Zixthor had tried to reason with them. He explained the tactical situation. He showed them the numbers. He made it clear that staying meant certain death. The humans listened politely, then refused again. This is our outpost too, a human woman named Sarah Martinez had said. She was the head of mining operations. We built these structures. We worked this ground. We are not giving it to those bugs without a fight. In the end, Zixthor had a choice. He could order his soldiers to drag the humans onto the ships by force, or he could leave them behind. He chose to leave. It seemed cruel, but less cruel than forcing them to live as cowards. The transport ships lifted off with 43 people aboard. 17 humans remained on the ground, standing in a line outside the main building, watching the ships disappear into the sky. Zixthor had felt sick. He had just abandoned 17 people to die. But something unexpected happened. Zixthor's ship developed engine trouble, a coolant leak that would take hours to repair. They had to land at a safe distance from the outpost and make repairs, which meant they would be there when the Zathan attacked. They would witness what happened to those foolish humans. From their position on a ridge 5 kilometers away, Zixthor and his people watched through surveillance equipment. They saw the Zathan swarm arrive like a dark wave across the desert, thousands of creatures moving together, their claws clicking, their mandibles snapping in anticipation. They also saw what the humans had done in those few hours. The outpost had been transformed. Every entrance had been barricaded with mining equipment. Explosive charges dotted the perimeter in careful patterns. The humans had positioned themselves in elevated spots with clear sight lines. They had turned a simple mining facility into a fortress. The first Zathan reached the perimeter fence. The humans detonated explosives. The blast threw sand and insect bodies high into the air. Dozens died instantly. The rest kept coming. They cannot hold, Zixthor had said, watching the display. There are too many, but the humans had thought about that. They had calculated fields of fire. They had created kill zones where the Zathan had to bunch together. Every time the swarm concentrated, another explosive charge detonated. When the Zathan tried to spread out, the humans picked them off with precise shots. It was like watching a carefully choreographed dance of death. The battle lasted for hours that first day. When darkness came, the Zathan pulled back. They did not like fighting at night. The humans used the time to repair barricades, redistribute ammunition, and treat their wounded. 3 humans had been injured in the first assault. One had a badly broken leg. The surveillance equipment picked up audio, and Zixthor heard them talking. "How bad is the leg?" Marcus asked the injured woman. "Broken in 2 places," she replied. Her name was Jennifer something. Zixthor could not remember the last name. "I can still shoot, though. You need to rest." "I will rest when I am dead," Jennifer said. Then she laughed. She actually laughed. The second day was worse. The Zathan learned from their mistakes. They attacked from multiple directions at once. They climbed over the bodies of their dead to reach the barricades. Several broke through into the outpost itself. Zixthor watched a human man fight 3 Zathan in close combat. He used a mining tool called a breaker bar like a club, smashing the creatures with brutal efficiency. When one Zathan claw tore open his arm, the man barely seemed to notice. He just kept fighting. "How are they doing this?" one of Zixthor's soldiers asked. "They should be exhausted. They should be breaking under the stress." "I do not know," Zixthor had admitted. By the 3rd day, all 17 humans were wounded in some way. Some had cuts. Some had broken bones. One had burns from an explosive that detonated too close. But they kept fighting. They rotated positions so everyone could sleep for a few hours. They encouraged each other with strange human words that the translators could not quite capture. On the 5th day, Jennifer, the woman with the broken leg, ran out of ammunition. Zixthor watched through the surveillance feed as a Zathan climbed through a gap in the barricade near her position. She could not run. Her leg was splinted and useless. Instead, she picked up her metal crutch and swung it like a bat. The crutch caught the Zathan across its head with a solid crunch. The creature fell. Another came through the gap. She hit that one too, and another, and another. She is using her medical equipment as a weapon, Zixthor had said in disbelief. A Keltharian soldier next to him made a sound of distress. How is she still conscious? The pain must be incredible. But Jennifer kept swinging her crutch until another human arrived with more ammunition. Then she went back to shooting as if nothing unusual had happened. The Zathan did not give up either. They attacked every day, sometimes twice a day. The pile of their dead grew larger around the outpost. The smell must have been terrible, though the surveillance equipment could not transmit that. On the 8th day, Zixthor made a decision. We cannot just watch them die, he told his crew. Prepare weapons. We are going to help them. They loaded into ground vehicles and drove to the outpost. The Zathan turned to attack them, but the humans provided covering fire. Zixthor and his soldiers made it inside the perimeter. That was when Zixthor truly saw what the humans had endured. Every single one of them was injured. They were dirty, exhausted, low on supplies. Their medical supplies were nearly gone. Several had infections starting in their wounds, but they were still fighting. Still alert, still organized. Took you long enough, Marcus had said with a bloody smile. Glad you could join the party. Zixthor had stared at him. Why did you stay? Why did you do this? Marcus looked around at the outpost, at his fellow humans, at the barricades they had built. Because running is easy, he said. Standing is hard. We chose hard. With reinforcements, the defense became easier. Zixthor's soldiers brought fresh ammunition and medical supplies. They added their weapons to the defense. The Zathan attacks continued for 3 more days, but with less intensity. The swarm was learning that this target cost too much. On the 11th day, military ships arrived from a nearby Covenant base. The Zathan retreated into the desert, their numbers greatly reduced. The siege was over. All 17 humans survived. Every single one of them was critically wounded. Several would need months of recovery. But they had held the outpost. They had done the impossible. As medical teams carried the humans to hospital ships, Zixthor had approached Sarah Martinez. She was barely conscious, her body a mass of bandages and splints. Why? He asked her. Help me understand why you stayed. Sarah looked at him with eyes that seemed much older than they had 11 days ago. Because that is what humans do, Commander, she said softly. We do not quit. We do not surrender. We find a way, or we make a way, or we die trying. But we do not run. Zixthor stood in the lecture hall, the memory still fresh after all these years. He looked at the cadets watching him with wide eyes. That was my first lesson about humans, he said quietly. A cadet near the back of the lecture hall raised a tentacle. Commander, she said, I understand that humans are stubborn in ground combat, but surely in space, where physical endurance matters less, they are no different from other species. Zixthor clicked his mandibles slowly. The sound echoed in the quiet hall. That, he said, is what I thought too, until I experienced the pursuit through the Corvin Nebula. He touched his control panel. The holographic display changed to show a region of space filled with colorful gas clouds. The nebula looked beautiful in the image, like a painting of swirling reds and purples and blues. This happened 3 years into the war, Zixthor said. I had been promoted to ship captain by then. I commanded a Covenant destroyer called the Unbroken Pride. We had just finished a battle near the edge of Covenant space. A difficult fight, but we won. Or so we thought. The display changed to show 2 ships. One was sleek and angular, with a design that marked it as Covenant military. The other was blocky and functional, clearly human in construction. The human destroyer Relentless had also fought in that battle. Zixthor continued. After the fighting ended, both ships were damaged. Both needed repairs. Standard military protocol in such situations is to withdraw to friendly space, repair, and continue operations later. He paused and looked at the cadets. The Unbroken Pride followed protocol. We retreated into the Corvin Nebula. The nebula is huge. It takes weeks to cross even at high speed. More importantly, the gas and dust inside make sensors nearly useless. It is the perfect place to hide and make repairs. We thought we had escaped, Zixthor said quietly. We were wrong. The display showed a path through the nebula, marked in glowing lines. For the first 2 days we detected nothing. Our crew relaxed. Engineering teams worked on fixing our damaged systems. We slowed to conservation speed to save fuel. Everything seemed normal. Then on the 3rd day our rear sensors picked up something, very faint, almost nothing, a trace of exhaust particles that might be from another ship. Zixthor remembered the moment perfectly. He had been in his command chair reviewing repair reports when the sensor officer had made the announcement. "Captain, possible contact bearing 270. "Possible?" Zixthor had asked. "Explain." "The signal is at the very edge of detection range, sir. It could be sensor noise, it could be natural gas movement in the nebula, or it could be another ship following us." Zixthor had considered the options. Following them? Through a nebula where sensors barely worked. Unlikely. "Continue monitoring," he had ordered. "If the signal strengthens, inform me immediately." But the signal never strengthened. It stayed at the edge of detection, a ghost in their sensors. Always there, always following. On the 5th day, Zixthor had called his senior officers to a meeting. "Someone is following us," he told them. "I am certain of it." "Could be anyone," his weapons officer said. "Pirates, another military ship. Could even be one of our own ships." "No," Zixthor had said. "Our ships would have identified themselves. Pirates would have attacked or fled. This ship is following deliberately, staying just outside our clear sensor range." "The humans?" his first officer asked. "The humans," Zixthor confirmed. They changed course, turning deeper into the nebula. The sensor ghost changed course too. They increased speed. The ghost stayed with them. They cut all non-essential systems to reduce their energy signature. The ghost remained at the edge of their sensors. "How are they tracking us?" the sensor officer asked after a week had passed. "Our signature is minimal. The nebula should hide us completely." Zixthor had no answer. But the humans stayed with them, day after day, never getting closer, never falling behind. On the 10th day, Zixthor tried something desperate. He had the ship make a sudden turn, cutting thrust completely, letting the ship drift. They powered down everything except life support. The ship became nearly invisible. For 6 hours they waited in silence. The ghost disappeared from sensors. Success, Zixthor thought. They had finally lost the humans. Then, at hour 7, the ghost reappeared, still following, still tracking them somehow. "This is not possible," the first officer said. He looked frightened. "How can they follow us when we are invisible?" Zixthor had studied humans by this point. He had read reports. He had talked to other Covenant officers who had fought them, and he remembered something disturbing from those reports. "On Earth," he said slowly, "humans evolved as hunters, not ambush predators like most species. They hunted by chasing prey over long distances. Their prey would run until exhausted, then collapse. The humans would follow for hours, sometimes days, until their target could run no more." The crew looked at him with confusion. "I think," Zixthor said, "they are not using sensors to track us. I think they are following our trail. Every ship leaves traces, microscopic particles, disturbances in the gas, thermal variations. These traces fade quickly, but they exist. I think the humans are following these traces step by step, like an ancient hunter following footprints." "For 10 days?" the weapons officer asked. "Without stopping?" "Without stopping," Zixthor confirmed. The reality of their situation settled over the crew like a heavy weight. They were being hunted. Days became weeks. The unbroken pride pushed deeper into the nebula, but the ghost never left their sensors. The human ship followed with mechanical patience, never rushing, never stopping. Zixthor's crew began to show signs of stress. Officers snapped at each other. Small mistakes happened more frequently. Everyone moved through the ship with nervous energy, always looking over their shoulders. "They are breaking us," the ship's doctor told Zixthor during the 3rd week. "Not with weapons, with psychological pressure. The crew knows someone is following us. They know we cannot escape." It is causing anxiety, paranoia, exhaustion. But we are on normal shifts, Zixthor said. Everyone gets proper rest time. Rest time does not mean sleep, the doctor replied. Most crew members lie awake, wondering when the humans will attack. Fear keeps them alert even when their bodies need sleep. Zixthor himself was not sleeping well. He kept imagining the human crew in their ship, following endlessly, never tiring, never giving up. Were they tired too? Did they feel the same stress? On the 32nd day of the pursuit, Zixthor received a transmission. It was audio only, in standard Covenant language. Covenant vessel Unbroken Pride. This is Captain Maria Santos of the Earth Destroyer Relentless. We have been following you for 32 days. We will continue following you for as long as necessary. The voice was female, calm, almost friendly. It made Zixthor's skin crawl. You have 3 options, Captain Santos continued. Option 1. You can continue running. We will follow. Eventually your fuel will run out, or your crew will break, or you will make a mistake. Then we will destroy you. Option 2. You can turn and fight. Your ship is damaged. Our ship is damaged. It would be a close battle. Many will die on both sides. Maybe you win, maybe we win, but we will fight until one of us is destroyed completely. There was a pause. Then Captain Santos said, Option 3. You surrender now. You and your crew become prisoners of war. You will be treated well according to our laws. When the war ends, you go home. Zixthor stared at the communication panel. His mind raced through the options. Keep running. His fuel reserves would last maybe another week. Fight. His ship was damaged, and his crew was exhausted. Surrender? We need time to consider, Zixthor said into the communicator. You have 6 hours, Captain Santos replied. After that, we will assume you choose option 1 or 2, and we will act accordingly. Zixthor called his senior officers together. Opinions? We should fight, the weapons officer said immediately. We are Covenant warriors, we do not surrender. We should run, the navigator said. We might find a way to lose them. We will not lose them, Zixthor said tiredly. They have followed us for 32 days through a nebula that should make tracking impossible. They will follow us forever if necessary. How can you know that? The first officer asked. Because that is what humans do, Zixthor replied. He thought of Outpost 7. Of humans fighting for 11 days when they should have died in 1. They do not quit, ever. If we run, they follow. If we hide, they search. If we fight, they fight harder. There is no escape from them. He looked at each officer in turn. My vote is surrender. I will not waste our lives in a pointless battle. I will not run until we are so exhausted that they destroy us without effort. If we must lose, we lose now, with dignity. The vote was not unanimous, but it was enough. 6 hours later, the Unbroken Pride powered down its weapons and transmitted surrender codes. The Relentless approached slowly, weapons ready, prepared for treachery. When the human ship came close enough for visual contact, Zixthor saw it through his view screen. The Relentless looked terrible. Burn marks covered its hull. Sections were clearly damaged. It had pushed through weeks of pursuit in worse condition than the Unbroken Pride. But when the human crew came aboard to take control, Zixthor was shocked. They looked fresh, alert, ready to fight if necessary. Captain Santos herself led the boarding party, and she moved with easy confidence. How? Zixthor asked her. How are you not exhausted? Your ship is damaged. You have been chasing us for 32 days without rest. Part 4. The Medic After. The pursuit story. Zixthor allowed the cadets a brief break. They needed time to process what they had heard. When they returned, the lecture hall felt different, quieter, more serious. A young cadet from the Vex species stood and spoke without being called on. Commander, your stories show human determination and endurance, but you have not mentioned their mercy. Surely humans can be reasoned with. Surely they show compassion? Zixthor was quiet for a long moment. He looked at the cadet with an expression that was hard to read. Yes, he finally said. Humans are capable of great mercy, great compassion. I have seen them risk their lives to save wounded enemies. I have seen them share their food with prisoners. I have seen them show kindness that surprised me. He paused. But I have also seen what happens when someone hurts those they care about. And that is perhaps the most terrifying thing about humans. The holographic display changed. It showed a planet with a brown and green surface. This is Thresh 4, Zixthor said. A contested world during the war. Both Covenant and human forces wanted control of it. I was there as a liaison officer, assigned to work with a human marine unit. The display showed images of soldiers, humans in combat armor carrying weapons, smiling at the camera. They looked young and confident. This was 2nd Squad, Charlie Company, Zixthor said. 12 humans under the command of Sergeant William Drake. I lived with them for 3 weeks before the battle I am about to describe. I ate their food. I listened to their jokes. I learned their names. He touched the display and one image grew larger, a human woman with dark skin and kind eyes. This is Corporal Lisa Chen. She was their medic. Her job was to treat injured soldiers on the battlefield. She saved lives. Zixthor's voice grew softer. Lisa was the first human I would call a friend. She asked me about Keltharian culture. She showed interest in my family. She taught me a human card game called poker. She was gentle and funny and good. The cadets listened with full attention. The battle started on a clear morning. Zixthor continued. Standard engagement. Both sides exchanged fire. People were wounded but not killed. The humans fought with professional efficiency. They advanced carefully, using good tactics following rules of warfare. The display showed tactical maps of the battlefield. I was with the squad when the first casualties occurred. 2 humans wounded by plasma fire. Lisa ran forward under fire to reach them. She pulled them to safety and treated their injuries. I remember thinking how brave she was. The Covenant forces began to retreat, Zixthor said. The battle was nearly over. We had won this engagement. His mandibles clicked rapidly with distress. Then the Covenant commander made a terrible decision. The display changed to show containers of chemicals. He ordered the deployment of chemical weapons. Against the rules of war. Against all moral standards. But he was desperate and angry. Zixthor's voice dropped to almost a whisper. The gas came in green clouds. It burned exposed skin. It destroyed lungs. It caused terrible pain. Lisa was treating a wounded soldier when the gas reached her position. Zixthor continued. She could have run. Could have saved herself. But she stayed with her patient. She put a gas mask on him first before taking care of herself. The lecture hall was completely silent. She did not have time to put on her own mask, Zixthor said. The gas got into her lungs. I heard her coughing on the communication system. Heard her choking. Heard her dying. He stopped talking for a moment. The memories were clearly painful even after so many years. Sergeant Drake reached her in time. Zixthor finally continued. He put a mask on her face. Gave her medicine. But it was too late. Lisa died within minutes, still trying to reach for her medical equipment, still trying to help others. A cadet made a sound of sorrow. Several others looked down at their desks. I was not hurt badly, Zixthor said. The gas touched me, but not severely. I was in a sheltered position, but I saw everything that happened next. The display changed to show the faces of the human Marines. Their expressions had changed. No more smiles. No more jokes. Their eyes looked flat and cold. Sergeant Drake stood up, Zixthor said. He looked at Lisa's body. Then he looked at his squad. He did not say much. Just 3 words, find them all. I did not understand at first, Zixthor continued. Find who? Find what? The battle was over. The Covenant forces had retreated. Standard procedure would be to secure the area and treat casualties. But the humans did not follow standard procedure. The display showed a map with movement arrows. The squad moved out immediately. They tracked the Covenant unit that had deployed the chemical weapons. They followed them across kilometers of rough terrain. They moved fast with terrible purpose. I went with them, Zixthor said. I tried to talk to Sergeant Drake, tried to tell him that revenge was not worth it, that Lisa would not want this. He remembered the sergeant's response clearly. The human had turned to lock at him with eyes that seemed empty of all emotion. You do not understand, Drake had said quietly. This is not about revenge. This is about justice. They murdered someone under our protection. someone we loved. That cannot stand. But she was a soldier, Zixthor had protested. Soldiers die in war. Not like that, Drake replied. Not from illegal weapons while helping the wounded. Not while being brave and good and kind. The human squad had caught up with the Covenant unit 6 hours later. Zixthor watched from a distance as the humans attacked. It was nothing like the professional, controlled fighting he had seen earlier. This was something else. Something primal and terrifying. Sergeant Drake walked through plasma fire, Zixthor told the cadets. Burns covered his armor. His shields failed. The heat must have been incredible. But he did not stop. He did not even slow down. I watched him reach the Covenant commander who had ordered the chemical attack. Zixthor continued. His voice was quiet with remembered horror. What happened next was brutal. He did not describe the details. The cadets did not need to hear exactly how Sergeant Drake had killed that Covenant officer. But Zixthor remembered. He still saw it in his nightmares sometimes. The rest of the squad fought with the same intensity, Zixthor said. They did not retreat when wounded, did not stop when tired. They hunted down every single Covenant soldier who had been involved in the chemical attack. By the end, the human squad had suffered terrible injuries. Burns, broken bones, deep cuts. One Marine had lost an eye. Another had shrapnel in his lungs. But they had accomplished their mission. Every Covenant soldier who had been part of the chemical attack was dead. Zixthor looked at the cadets. I have told you that humans are stubborn, that they are patient hunters. But this is different. This is about their pack bonding. The display changed to show a scientific diagram. Humans evolved as social animals. They form very strong emotional connections with others in their group. These bonds are not based on logic or benefit. They are deep, instinctual, powerful. When you hurt someone a human has bonded with, Zixthor said, you do not just make an enemy. You trigger something in their brain that goes beyond rational thought. You activate ancient instincts about protecting the tribe. He thought about how to explain this to species who did not bond the same way. Imagine you have a possession you value greatly. Now imagine someone not just taking it, but destroying it while laughing at you. The anger you would feel. Humans feel something far stronger when someone hurts their bonded companions. They have a saying for this, Zixthor continued. They say you killed their dog. This comes from an ancient human story about a man who went on a violent rampage after criminals killed his pet animal. It has become shorthand for triggering human protective rage. A cadet spoke up. But Commander, surely this rage makes them irrational, makes them easy to defeat? No, Zixthor said firmly. That is the disturbing part. Sergeant Drake and his squad were not irrational. They planned their attack carefully. They used good tactics. They supported each other. The rage made them more focused, not less. More dangerous, not weaker. After the fight, Zixthor said, I tried to provide first aid to Sergeant Drake. His burns were severe. He needed immediate medical attention. But he refused treatment until every member of his squad had been checked first. I asked him why he did it, why he walked through fire for revenge. It was not revenge. Drake had corrected him gently. Despite his injuries, despite his exhaustion, his voice was patient. It was justice. Lisa was part of our pack. Our family. When someone murders your family with illegal weapons, you respond. You make it clear that such actions have consequences. But you could have died, Zixthor had said. Drake had looked at him with those strange predator eyes. Yes, he said simply, but she was worth it. They are all worth it. He gestured to his squad. I would walk through fire for any of them. They would do the same for me. That is what it means to be human. Zixthor stood quietly in the lecture hall, letting the story sink in. I have fought beside many species, he finally said. All are brave. All are capable. But humans fight differently when their bonded companions are threatened. Professional humans are efficient soldiers, he continued. But emotional humans, humans fighting to protect or avenge those they love, are unstoppable forces of nature. The display changed to show a quote in glowing letters. Do not mistake mercy for weakness. Part 5. The lesson Zixthor turned off the holographic displays. The lecture hall seemed darker without their glow. He stood in silence for a moment, letting his stories settle over the cadets like dust after an explosion. You have heard 3 stories now, he said. You have heard about human stubbornness at Outpost 7. You have heard about human persistence in the pursuit through the Corvin Nebula. You have heard about human protective rage on Thresh 4. He walked to the front edge of the stage, closer to the cadets than he had been during the entire lecture. Now I will tell you the truth that these stories reveal. The truth that ended the war. The truth that every military commander in the galaxy should understand. A cadet in the front row spoke up. Commander, the Covenant was winning the war. We had more ships, more soldiers, better technology. Why did we surrender? That, Zixthor said, is exactly the question Covenant Command asked ourselves. On paper, we were winning. We won more battles than we lost. We controlled more territory. Our casualty rates were favorable. He paused and clicked his mandibles slowly. But we were losing anyway, and it took us years to understand why. The lecture hall was completely silent. Every cadet leaned forward slightly, not wanting to miss a word. Let me explain with numbers, Zixthor said. In the 3rd year of the war, the Covenant won a major battle in the Deneb system. We destroyed 3 human ships and captured a colony world. By all measures, it was a significant victory. The cost was 2 Covenant ships destroyed and 4 damaged. Acceptable losses for such an important target. Covenant Command celebrated. We thought we were breaking human resistance. Zixthor's voice grew harder. Within 6 months, humans had launched 7 revenge attacks on Covenant positions. Not strategic targets, revenge targets. They hit military bases, supply lines, even diplomatic facilities. Each attack was carefully planned to cause maximum damage. The message was clear, Zixthor continued. For every human colony we took, they would make us pay 10 times over. For every human ship we destroyed, they would destroy 2 of ours in response. They would not accept any victory we achieved. A cadet raised a claw. But that is irrational. That is wasteful. That is not how war works. Exactly, Zixthor said. That is exactly the problem. War, as we understand it, is about rational calculation. You fight until the cost becomes too high. Then you negotiate. You balance military objectives against acceptable losses. You make logical decisions. He spread his forearms wide. Humans do not think this way. They do not have a point where cost becomes too high. They do not have an acceptable loss threshold. They will fight forever if necessary. The display behind him turned on again, showing graphs and charts. Covenant analysts studied human psychology extensively during the war. We tried to understand their breaking point. Every species has one. The point where they say this is not worth it and surrender. We never found the human breaking point, Zixthor said quietly, because it does not exist. He touched the control panel and the charts changed. Look at human history. They have fought wars on their own planet that lasted decades, generations. They have endured occupations that killed millions. They have survived attempts to completely destroy their cultures. And they always came back, always kept fighting, always found a way to resist. A different cadet spoke up. But humans are not invincible. They die like anyone else. Their ships explode. Their soldiers fall. How can they be unbeatable? They are not unbeatable, Zixthor agreed. You can kill humans. You can destroy their ships. You can win battles against them. But here is the terrifying truth. Every time you hurt humans, the survivors become more determined. He let that sink in before continuing. Most species become demoralized by losses. Lose too many battles and they negotiate. Lose too many soldiers and they surrender. But humans, they get angry. They get focused. They start fighting harder. In the 8th year of the war, Zixthor said, the Covenant destroyed a human colony world called New Shanghai. The attack killed 2 million civilians. Covenant Command thought this would break human will to fight, thought they would see the futility of resistance. His voice was heavy with old regret. Instead, human recruitment increased by 40%. Their military production doubled. They stopped offering any surrender terms to Covenant forces. The war became total on their side. We had not broken them, Zixthor said. We had made them more dangerous. The display changed to show a quote. We shall go on to the end. Remember these words from the beginning of my lecture? Zixthor asked. They come from a human leader during an ancient war on Earth. His nation was losing badly, facing invasion, facing defeat, and he promised to fight on beaches and streets and hills, to never surrender, and they did not surrender. They fought. They endured. They eventually won. Zixthor looked at the cadets with an expression they could not quite read. That is what humans do always, in every conflict. Against every enemy, they endure impossible hardship and call it Tuesday. A senior cadet near the back stood up. Commander, I still do not understand. You said the Covenant was winning the war. If humans never surrender, why did we not just keep winning until they were all dead? The question hung in the air like a weight. Because, Zixthor said slowly, we realized what achieving total victory would require. The display changed again. It showed projections, calculations, strategic models. Covenant Command ran simulations, Zixthor explained. What would it take to truly defeat humanity? Not just win battles, but end them as a threat forever? The answer was genocide. Complete genocide. We would have to destroy every human world, kill every human in space, hunt down every ship, leave no survivors who could rebuild. The cadets shifted uncomfortably in their seats. And even then, Zixthor continued, the simulations showed a problem. Humans spread fast. They colonize aggressively. They hide ships in deep space. By the time we found and destroyed all of them, the war would have lasted 50 more years and cost millions of Covenant lives. Millions, he repeated, to fight an enemy that refused to quit. But more than that, Zixthor said, we realized something about ourselves. The Covenant is not good at endless war. We evolved as ambush predators, short, intense conflicts followed by peace. The idea of fighting continuously for decades, for generations, was alien to us, but not to humans. They were prepared to fight forever if necessary. He clicked his mandibles in what might have been a laugh. In the 10th year of the war, a Covenant negotiator met with human representatives. He tried to explain our position, tried to make them understand that continued war served no purpose. The human negotiator listened politely. Then she said something I will never forget. We are prepared to fight this war for the next 200 years if needed. Are you? She was not bluffing, Zixthor said. Human society had fully mobilized. They were building generation ships, vessels designed to fight for decades with families living aboard. They were establishing hidden colonies that could sustain war production for centuries. They were planning for a conflict that would outlast everyone in that negotiation room. The Covenant negotiator returned home with this information, Zixthor continued. Covenant Command faced reality. We could not win. Not because we lacked strength, but because we lacked endurance. We would break before they did. So we negotiated peace, Zixthor said simply. Not because we were defeated on the battlefield, but because we understood that defeating humans was impossible without destroying ourselves in the process. The lecture hall was quiet. The cadets were processing what they had heard. Let me be very clear, Zixthor said. Humans are not better fighters than Covenant forces. They are not stronger or faster. Their technology is not superior. But they have one advantage that trumps everything else. They never quit. Never, he repeated. They will endure pain that kills other species. They will fight when wounded. They will pursue enemies for weeks. They will protect their allies with suicidal bravery. And they will keep coming back no matter how many times you defeat them. A young cadet raised a tentacle timidly. Commander, what should we do if humans become our enemies again? Zixthor looked at the cadet for a long moment. You make absolutely certain they do not become your enemies. He stepped back to the center of the stage. That is the lesson of the war. The lesson written in blood across dozens of worlds. The lesson that cost millions of lives to learn. Make humans your friends, Zixthor said firmly. Because if you make them your enemies, you only have two choices. Genocide or surrender, and as I have explained, genocide is not possible. They spread too fast. They adapt too quickly. They are too determined to survive. So you surrender, he said, either at the beginning, saving lives and resources, or at the end, after wasting years and millions of deaths. The choice is yours, but the outcome is the same. The display behind him changed one final time. It showed an image of human and Covenant soldiers standing together, working on a joint project, building something instead of destroying. This is why the Covenant made peace, Zixthor said, gesturing at the image. Not because we wanted to, but because we had to. And you know what? It was the best decision we ever made. Humans as allies are wonderful, he continued, and his voice held genuine warmth. They are loyal. They are brave.